Hey guys, thanks for coming back. Today we're talking about Captain Moroni, Chief Commander. Chief Commander Captain Moroni. He's probably the coolest person in the scriptures, after Jesus, of course. And there's a lot of cool people, but Captain Moroni, for something he just like, I just think he's really cool. So we're going to read about him today in our next segment on the strength of the Lord. Now we're going back 73 years BC, so quite a ways back. Um, Captain Moroni is a very righteous person, but he's fighting strong for the freedom and for the people of his time. And there came a time when the Nephites. So we had some wars between the Nephites and the Lamanites. This is mostly just Nephite time. Um, but there was some success. They were doing pretty good. And in Alma chapter 45, we read that they grew proud, being lifted up in their hearts because of their exceedingly great riches. They grew rich in their own eyes, and they would not give heed to the words to walk uprightly before God. And I think that's important. I think exceedingly great riches is fantastic. But I think it's when you get lifted up, when you become prideful, when you believe the success in your life is because of you and not because of Christ's blessings. I think that's when you get in trouble. When you grow rich in your own eyes, like it says, and you do not give heed to the words of Jesus. And we see this often in the Book of Mormon, in history, in the scriptures, and probably our own lives, where we are successful, we do well, we don't feel the need to maybe pray so much, or we don't need to go to church because you're doing well, and it's easy to start become a little prideful and forget about Jesus, and then sometimes Jesus brings us back down and helps us remember who's boss. Anyway, so during this time, people are becoming prideful, becoming wealthy, and there was a guy named Amalickiah, and he wanted to be king. Like he wanted to be the boss of everybody, which happens a lot in the world, in history, and scriptures. So Amalickiah wanted to be king of all the land. So he was trying to take over, and he was using great flattery. So we're going into Alma chapter 46. A lot of flattery. First chunk of verses all talks about him using flattery with the people, and that's a great tool, right? Like, if you tell people, like, yeah, you're good enough, like you don't need Jesus, you don't need to repent, you don't need scriptures, you don't need to pray, like you're just amazing by yourself and stuff, and you build people up on their own and take Christ away from them. You're wealthy because you're amazing, not because you've been blessed. A lot of people like that. You can get a good following that way, and even like you watch media today, the different media outlets will let people know that in different ways that their viewers are smarter than other ones, and they can't believe other people don't believe what they believe, and they're more enlightened. And so we see this all the time. So it's not just 2100 years ago. I really like what it says in verse 8. We see how quick the children of men do forget the Lord their God, how quick they are to do iniquity and to be led away by the evil one. And I see this in my own life sometimes, lives of other people, like how quick you can be doing so well, have so much peace, so much joy in your life. You have such a good relationship with Jesus Christ. You get prideful, you get the blessings, and it's easy to fall away after that. And it's important to keep repenting, keep trying to be humble, and remember where those blessings came from. But we see 9. We also see the great wickedness one very wicked man can cause to take place among the children of men. So we're talking about how much wickedness, like in the whole society, how much wickedness can be caused by one person. One person uses flattery, gets in the right position, wants to take over, and we let those people sometimes. we let the people who make us feel good about ourselves and all this. So Malachi was using his flattery. He was leading away the hearts of many. He was trying to, big things he was trying to do. He was trying to destroy the church of God, and he was trying to destroy the foundation of liberty. So he was fighting against liberty, against the freedoms of the people. He wanted to take over and control people, get rid of the church. And Captain Moroni caught wind of this. He wasn't too happy. He's like, I don't like this one bit. And I love Captain Moroni. So he's not sitting back. He's like, he didn't sit there and think, well, we'll see what happens. We'll see what goes on. No, he's like, it's on. He is not getting away with this. So Captain Moroni rents his coat. He didn't like rent it from the store. He tore. He tears his coat off. He tears a chunk of it off. He's got it, and he's like writing on it. I don't know. He grabbed a Sharpie, and he's writing on it. And he writes on this big chunk of his coat that he tore off, in memory of our God, our religion, our freedom, and our peace, our wives, and our children. I think I put my thumb up there. I think there was 6 of them there. God, religion, freedom, peace, wives, children. That's what, in memory of these things, this is why we're fighting. And in business world today, like if you're starting a company, if you want to motivate people, you have to go back to the why. This is why we are doing what we do. This is why we are in business. This is who we are helping, blah, blah, blah. This is why we're fighting. So that's pretty common. Like, you know, if you're going to go start a mission, or going to go take over the world, or you're going to go fight someone, like starting with the why is huge. So religion, I love this. God is the first thing we're fighting for. Religion, to worship God. Freedom, so you got the freedom to have a religion, to worship God. Peace, wives, and our children. So he's fighting for these things. He writes them on part of his coat. He puts it on a pole, verse 12 there in 46. He fastened it on his headplate, his breastplate, his shields, and girded his armor about his loins. And he took the pole which he had on the end thereof. They read his coat. He called this the title of liberty. So he's ready to go. He's explained why. He's got his put on his full armor. He's got his pole. He's got his flag on the end. He's got the title of liberty that reminds everyone why they're fighting. And he's ready to go to battle. And you think the next thing you would do would be to go out like yelling in the streets like William Wallace or something, like, yeah, we're going freedom and we're gonna go fight. The first thing he did next after he made his title of liberty, and he bowed himself to the earth and he prayed mightily prayer. He prayed mightily unto his God for the blessings of liberty to rest upon his brethren, so long as there should a band of Christians remain to possess the land. He's praying for liberty. He's praying to God, praying mightily to God for liberty. And it's almost like he got really excited and he's doing all this stuff to like get going. He's like, okay, I can't forget God. I can't forget who's going to help me get there. So he prays. He prays, which I love. And then he goes out and he starts recruiting people with the title of liberty. And he's fighting for freedom to worship God. He's fighting for families. He's fighting for Christians. He wants people to be able to worship Christ and other freedoms of the land. And Captain Moroni, he went all around the land. He started recruiting people with his title liberty. He told people what was going on, and he told people why they were fighting. And people would come to him, and he would recruit them. And a lot of times in the history, I think back in like American Revolution, different wars, man, you take whoever you can get to fight for you. If you're willing to fight, come along. Captain Moroni said, "Whosoever will maintain this title upon the land, let them come forth in the strength of the Lord." So we've been building up to this for like 10 minutes, and there's the strength of the Lord. So he's got his title of liberty, he's got all this, he's ready, he's to fight, he's running around with this, and he says, whoever's ready to fight, come forth in the strength of the Lord. Now, I love this because Captain Moroni, he's probably read the scriptures. He's probably read about the history of his people. He's got a lot of the Old Testament stories. He has the history before this time, so he knows what happens with his people. And he's probably reading about Alma, King Benjamin, Nephi, like the other times, and people have used the strength of the Lord. And he's like, if we're going to battle, we are going in the strength of the Lord. And then he says, okay, let them come forth in the strength of the Lord and enter into a covenant that they will maintain their rights and their religion, that the Lord God may bless them. So they come up. He doesn't have them swear an oath to fight for Captain Moroni. He doesn't have them swear an oath to fight for the country. He has them make a covenant to maintain their rights and religion. That's it. That's your qualification. So he yells this out, and he has people promise just to stay true to yourself. Be not yourself. Be true to your rights and religion, and that's what he's getting people to promise to fight. To fight for him. And I love that because I don't think it's ever about Captain Moroni. It's not like, come fight for me. It's come fight for freedom. He's just coordinating this. We're fighting for God. He's coordinating it. Everyone come fight. The only thing he's getting out of it is the freedom of religion and freedom for his family. That's why he's fighting. So Amalickiah, we're gonna go quick through a little bit now. But Amalickiah gathers all his people together. Captain Moroni gathers his people together with the title liberty, and he's got his shield and everything, and his armor. And so they kind of face off to each other. And then Amalickiah sees Captain Moroni, and Captain Moroni's got a lot more people than Amalickiah does. And remember, they're not fighting. They didn't make a covenant to be obedient to God. They're not fighting for God, religion, freedom, their church. They're not fighting for the cause of Christians. They're not fighting for their wives. They're not fighting for their children. They've been seduced by flatteries. They want to get rid of the church. They think that they're pretty awesome people, and that's not a lot to stand on. They're fighting for Amalickiah. That's their leader. They're not fighting for God. And way over in 46:29 of Alma, I like this. Amalickiah saw that Moroni's people were more numerous, and he also thought his people were doubtful concerning the justice of the cause in which they had undertaken. Therefore, fearing that he should not gain the point, he took those of his people who would and departed into the land of Nephi. So his people, his army's like, they're pretty hyped up. They got a big army. They got more people than us. I'm good if we just stay the same. Amalickiah, yeah, I was gonna vote for you, but I'm out. So I think a lot of people were like doubting and wanted out. And so Amalickiah kind of retreats, and they run out into the wilderness, and they start going towards the Lamanites. Now, the Lamanites is the other group of people in the land, and Captain Moroni's like, if they go over there and they get the Lamanites all riled up to war, like, this could be really bad. So Nephi's like, I don't think so. So Captain Moroni gets the Nephites, and they go and they cut them off before they get to Lamanites, and they have everyone promise, like, if you make a promise with us, all the people who's been following Amalickiah, that's great. You make a promise with us to not fight anymore, follow God, or we're going to put you to death. And not surprisingly, almost all of them followed Captain Moroni back and didn't follow Malachiah. Malachiah sneaks away with a couple other people, a few little band of people. They get away, and they do end up going to the Lamanites. But Captain Moroni, this was such a serious thing for him, this very righteous man. They catch these people and say, if you do not make a covenant to leave that behind you and to fight with us and to fight for God and fight for the cause of Christians and your families, you're being put to death. That's how strongly Chief Commander Moroni believed in his cause. That's how strongly he believed. If you are not behind the freedom for this people, you are being put to death. And again, when you're faced with those two options, yeah, I'll take freedom, sure. Just don't kill me. So a lot of people followed Captain Moroni. Now, there's way more to the story that we're not going to get to, and they end up fighting Malachiah some more, and over the next years, there's quite a lot of battles that start from this story. I love how Captain Moroni started this. In Alma 49:23, we're going to have another video about just this, but it says, just the very beginning, I love it. The Nephites had all power over their enemies. The Nephites had all power over their enemies. That is crazy. All power over their enemies. We'll skip to the next, and we skip a few more years here, but in the same timeline, in chapter 50, verse 23, but behold, never was there a happier time among the people of Nephi. So their actions led to a point where they had all power over the enemies, and there never was a happier time for the people. Those are huge things. And it all goes back, like the beginning of this journey goes back to Captain Moroni hearing about someone trying to destroy the freedom and destroy freedom of religion, destroy their country. And he gets mad and he prays mightily, and he has people enter into a covenant to fight for God and their religion. And he brings people in, and he only brings them if they're coming in the strength of the Lord. That doesn't mean that the battle ended as quickly. All the other examples we've talked about are much quicker stories. But we go from this, and then we get into a war with the Lamanites. Like, there's huge war and all this stuff happening. We get to a point where there's never a happier time, and the Nephites have all power over their enemies. And I think that's important in our own lives. Like, think about your own life. Like, do you have all power over your enemies, and not like kids at school or work or someone that you're beefing with and you don't get along or whatever? Like, I don't think that's so much that type of enemy, but maybe you have enemies in your own life. Maybe you have addictions. Maybe you do have real enemies that are people that are after you or trying to hurt you or trying to hurt your family. And that was Chief Commander Moroni's secret to winning and to never having a happier people. That's amazing. It didn't come overnight. There was a war. There was a lot of fighting. There was a lot of lives lost. And they got to a point where when the people as a group, they pushed out the enemy, they pushed out the evil, and they embraced God, that there never was a happier time. And I love that. And I think that's thanks to how Captain Moroni started the battle here in the strength of the Lord.